try to film a video for 5 minutes and this guy gets into the rubbish bin. You naughty puppy. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you the introduction for my Pan That Palette 2020. So just a quick reminder before we go into all the details, Pan That Palette was originally created by Amber F, who I will have linked down below. So make sure to check out her channel, and if I'm correct, in 2021 she is panning a La Rock palette. So I'm definitely looking forward to keeping up with that. Anyway, without further ado, let me introduce my Pan That palette for 2021. Yep, it is the KVD Metal Matte palette. So why did I decide to pan this palette? If any of you were following along with my Pan Those Eyeshadows project I did in 2020, you will know that I had the aim to hit pan on 2 shades from this palette. And both of those shades were in that project for well over half a year. And on top of that, I did not hit pan on either of them. I used Oak, which is this dark brown here. And you can see there is a substantial dip, but I used Oak over 30 times and I still am hardly close enough to hitting pan. Which means that this palette is a great value for money, but in saying that, it is not the best for panning. With that in mind, this palette is the most expensive palette in my collection. And I want to make sure that instead of constantly thinking it's my for special occasions palette, I want to make sure I get enough use out of it and I give it the usage and the love that it deserves. Because I do not want these shadows to go bad before I've been able to use them. Especially because I sometimes think, what is the point of using up this makeup that we purchase that is what you would consider less expensive, so we'll say cheaper, that more drugstore makeup. What is the point of using up those lesser priced palettes when I have something here that is well over $200 and I'm not getting any use out of it? It is my go-to special occasions palette, but I do not have, I'm old, there is not enough special occasions to warrant its use. And then recently I found I'm tending to still use palettes like my Pan That palette for special occasions because I want to get use out of those shadows. So that is why I'm aiming to pan this palette. And by pan this palette, I mean hit pan on all shades in this palette. I am definitely not silly enough to believe that I could use up this entire palette in 12 months. So my goal is to hit pan in all 22 of these shadows. So how about I give you some swatches of this palette? Let me just pull my sleeves out of the way. Okay, I'm going to start off along the top and then I'll go along the bottom. So first up we have here, which is Flash. And then next door to Flash we have Synergy. Then we have Volt. These are not the best swatches. Then we have Twinkle, which Twinkle is currently in my Panner's Pan project. Then we have Glitz. Can you see those, or are they a bit? Yep. Then we have Tinsel, which is this really chunky silver shadow. Then we have Ignite, this beautiful green, followed by What, and lastly Nebula. Look at that. The metal shadows are definitely gorgeous within this palette. But now let's move on to the mattes. Hopefully I'll have enough space. First up, we have Linen, which is a very, very white. Then we have Jet. Then we have this beautiful blue, which is Velour. Then we have Stone, which is a deep grey. Then we have Moss, which is a deep forest green. Followed by Ribbon. Followed by Silk, which is this beautiful mauve colour. Followed by Fringe, which is this orange. It's very hard to see. And then the yellow, which is Feather. Can you see that one just there? Followed by the brown Oak. Followed by Suede. Followed by Bone, which would be a perfect eyeshadow primer cover-up colour. And last but not least, Velvet, which Velvet is very much the disappointing shade for me. I think it is quite a browny purple, where it just doesn't look as burgundy as it comes out in the palette. But these are the shadows I'm going to be working on. So like I said, my goal is to hit pan on all 22 shadows in this palette. Let me just pull you in close so you can see where I currently am. As you can see, I am quite close to hitting pan in Twinkle, which I do think I can do within the next month. So that will be my goal for the first month, is to hit pan in Twinkle. And I do think that overall I could hit pan in the metal shades a lot quicker than I can in the matte shades. So I do think I'll have pan in those shades a lot sooner than any of the mattes. But right now my goal is to hit pan on Twinkle in the first month. Otherwise I'm going to have a bit of a play with the shadows and see which ones I do like the best, and I'll figure out how I can go from there. The ones I am slightly worried about are the darker colours, which majority of this palette is, but especially Velvet, Oak, Stone and Jet. Those are the ones I am most concerned about at this point, but we will just start working and see how we go. So that is really all I have for you for this introduction. Now I'm completely covered in shadow, so I better go and wash all of this off. But I think that is where I'll leave it. So just to recap, my aim is to hit pan on all 22 shadows in the Kat Von D or KVD, however we want to call it, KVD Metal Matte palette before the end of 2021. So I'm Verity. That was the introduction for my Pan That Palette 2021. And now to the outro.